Okay, so let's get started. For next 30 to 40 minutes, we are going to have a quick demo sessions. Mainly, we are going to talk about the AWS solutions, also the AWS certificate path in this session. Before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Suresh. It's almost 14 years in IT now, and I was initially more into IT infra security, and from last 10 years, I'm working on the cloud. I work on multi-cloud, both AWS, Azure, and also I work on some extent on Google. Now, I work as a solution architect, mainly for delivering projects around cloud. So this includes migrating on-premises application to cloud, also the setting up new clouds for the customers. So we generally involve on designing space and also we involve on implementation end to end, right? So that's one quick introduction, guys, from my end. However, I wanted to take your introduction as well as we go with, but since we have very limited time today, so let us keep focused on the course content for today's demo session, right? So the AWS has a cloud. It's a still the market leader. It started almost around 13 years back. Now still it's a market leader despite there is a tough competition from the other vendors like Microsoft and the Google, right? The still it's a preferred cloud, and in terms of the services, you can count more services compared to other cloud providers. In terms of stability, it is much better compared to other cloud providers now, right? Now, to getting into this cloud space, there are different paths in terms of learning and getting into the job. Now, the one of the widely uh, appeared the certification path is AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, right? Now, of course, there are other the certification path as well, like AWS Certified Practitioner, the AWS Certified SysOps. But if you compare all these three certificates, it's almost same, slightly different in terms of the course content. AWS Solution Architect Associate, the coverage is slightly higher in terms of the AWS services if you compare with SysOps and the practitioner, right? Now the associate something it is best suited for the students who are mainly getting new to the AWS, also who have some at least 6 months to 1 year of the basic working experience. So both uh, type of students it's best prepared. Now, if you have at least 2 to 3 years of experience and you have good hands-on, so then there is another level of certification that is AWS Certified Solution Architect Probation, right? So associate is more, individual service-oriented questions asked in the certification questions, but when it goes to professional, it's more focused on the scenario based, right? So the associate is something it is the best fit for almost all. Okay. Now coming to the course which we are going to cover. So we are focusing not only on the certification point of view, we focusing more on the job oriented approach. Right. So we discuss more on real-time practical scenarios in terms of migration, in terms of designing, in terms of troubleshooting. So in terms of even individual example project we take, right? The reason is the certification nowadays, be it AWS or be it Azure, the cracking certification, it's not something really, big job I can consider, right? So lots of questions nowadays, it's coming similar. There are a lot of uh, the reference questions, dumps are available across. So almost anyone can, get certified, and you can see lots of people are certified with AWS, or even if you go for Azure or Google. But the real problem when, if I take my own cases, when I go for interviewing the people, the trouble is the practical understanding, right? So people are able to answer the questions, point to point questions, like what is EC2, what is S3. So they give the single line definitions, they are good at that. But the moment you go for the practical scenarios, look, I have AWS, I have on-premises server. So I have set up two-tier application, I have set up three-tier application, and I wanted to get into cloud now. Give me the steps, right? For such questions, people get confused, since they don't really have the hands-on experience, the project experience. So there itself, people judge, yeah. So you just prepared for certification and you got a certification, but there is no practical experience, right? But since there are already a lot of people which certified, it becomes tough competition. The people are preferred who are having at least understanding of the practical understanding of AWS or any other cloud. Yeah. So we focus more on the practical scenarios, right? So however, in terms of the lecturing point of view, training point of view, so we still stick to this the course contents, but we discuss more on the practical approach. Okay. Now, what are the topics we cover? So in the certification point of view, there are four high-level segregation. The initial one is design, the resilient architecture, then design high-performing architecture, the design secure application and architecture, and cost-optimized architectures. So this high-level definition for each domain, and the percentage of questions what you can expect. Okay, so you will get around 30% from the design resilient architectures, right? Now, if we are going to get into the individual topic, what it's covered. Now, in the design resilient architecture, the topics what we cover is initially we will try to understand the AWS global infrastructure. So how it looks like, what are the data centers are available. So what is availability zone? There are term like availability zone. What is the edge location? Okay, what is the region at caches? So these are the term we will understand, and we will also try to map them for practical scenarios. For example, if you are deploying application where this the terms comes in, right? The next, the multi-tiered architecture with the private cloud. Now, the private cloud, VPC, virtual private cloud, it's a backbone of cloud always. So it comes with its own, the design practices like how to design it in terms of best security, right? So you need to have setup in terms of uh, private subnets, public subnet, and having internet connectivity, not having internet connectivity. So those design we discuss here. Then there are services like DNS, where generally we call it as, and in case of AWS, it's termed as a Route 53. So we are going to discuss how we can configure Route 53, how we can uh, link our applications to host in cloud, right? So then the Amazon CloudFront, this is something the caching service. For example, you have a static
Sorry, Suresh.
website. Yep,
Hi, sorry, Suresh. This is Vivek. I have one question.
yep,
So you are telling that we will also go through this Amazon Route 53.
that's correct. Yep.
So do we also need background for from networking side, because I am nil from networking?
See, we no need to have very in-depth network understanding. So from the
Okay.
cloud point of view, so whatever it's required that we will explain. So that is enough. But
Yeah.
generally, when we go for any organization, if there are detailed designing required, then there would be a separate team called network expert who is having the network specific certification required people, right? But generally, so with cloud network understanding, it's enough to manage your network plus the network cloud.
So I mean to say I don't have basic knowledge also.
Okay, so but at least you high level you will be aware how systems works, how they communicate each other in terms of IP address, in terms of modem. Example, if you take your own laptop in your house, right? So at least you will be having understanding how it works. Like for example, if you wanted to connect the internet, So you need to have a modem connected, and you need to get assigned the IP address, auto dynamic as IP addresses. Then you need to have some, DNS, and you need to have some gate. So you might be having those basic understandings, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So that is enough. That's something we will discuss. So in case if something is required in detail, so we can take some extra classes, by adjusting some maybe 1 hour early to our batch, or one post 1 hour of our class. So that's something we can manage.
Okay, then it's fine.
Yeah. The next thing, the disaster recovery and business continuity strategies. Now, when you go for cloud, or even if you're being in on-premises, the disaster is something, it can strike at any time. So when I say disaster, so if AWS provides you the services, be it a server or be it a network, so it actually gets provided by the some specific physical location, right? So let's take, in case of India, AWS has a data center in Mumbai. So there might be a reason where Mumbai location can go offline. There might be different reasons. It can be the natural calamities. Maybe it's a flood, or it may be some the social strikes, or it can be anything. Now, in such scenarios, how you will continue to run your application, because when your users are in across the globe, so you should make sure your application is running despite there is some major issue in the particular location. So in such cases, we have like business continuity options where you can run your application from multiple regions. So you can keep one set in India. You can also keep one set of your application in other country, maybe nearby Singapore, or Australia, right? So you have such options. Now that's something we are going to discuss. Then decoupled event-driven architecture. So nowadays, the way how applications are deployed in the cloud are getting completely redesigned, right? So if you look at 5 to 6 years back, there are fixed architecture. We call it as a two-tier, three-tier architecture. So you have fixed servers, like you have web server, app server, and DB servers, right? And you provision with some number of CPU and memory, it goes on working. But when it comes to the type of user load, it's completely dynamic. So you cannot really predict how many users come at what time, right? So for handling such applications, you need to have your servers designed such a way that so it should increase or decrease its size according to the user load, right? For example, if 100 users are coming, so then your number of servers, it should be handling 100 users. So moment it goes to 50, it should shrink to the 50 users capacity, right? So likewise, where you can manage the user performance as well as the cost, because in the cloud, it's everything going to a cost. When it comes to on-premises, you might not find much, very detailed cost calculations, because you buy in bulk and you keep it in data center, you just consume it. But when it comes to the cloud, it's each and everything, it's like a cost, right? So even if you get one IP address to your server, so it will be charged. So if you just get 1 GB of disk, you will be charged. Okay. So then finally, the AWS storage services. So there are different storage services available in the AWS. We will learn about it. So how to handle it, how to put the data, how to configure it, all those aspects. So any questions here, guys? Anything I wanted to clarify? Okay, perfect. The next thing, the design high performing architecture. So here, mainly we discuss about compute service, the individual service, right? There is a feature called auto scaling where we can increase or decrease number of servers based on the user load. Then we will learn about individual services like EC2. So it provides the VMs or servers. Then we have next level of compute. We call it as a ACS. So that is container service. Now you might be heard nowadays the applications are going towards microservices architecture. So when you say microservices, you're going to run your individual applications on container. So instead of having very thick servers with 60 GB operating system, 100 GB operating system, you will have operating system specific to your application alone, right? For example, you are having application code developed on .NET or ASP.NET. Okay. Now, for running ASP.NET application code, you need to have a just ASP.NET binary. But in the normal scenario, what people does is they launch a Windows server, right? So that server itself size around minimum 30 GB, right? And when you launch that server, it comes lot of other components as well, because the operating systems are generally done for multi-purpose, right? So it can run ASP.NET, it can run Visual Studio, it can run the other any Windows software. But when we are running a production kind of application, so it should be a specific to the specific product or your application code requirement. You really don't need everything for deployed for just running for ASP.NET kind of code. So in such cases, the containers really helps. Now containers are uh, comes kind of operating system image, but it is if you are looking for ASP.NET, so you will get ASP.NET specific container. So if you are having your application is developed on just a plain HTML, so then you will get a HTML based image or container that will size just a 1 MB, just a 500 MB or 600 MB. That's it. And you need to then just inject your application code, run your application. Yeah. So then we have something called Elastic Beanstalk. This is automated way of deploying your application. So instead of you deploying softwares, you deploying a VM, you deploying a software, so the AWS will automate those tasks. So you need to just go to the console and select what you need. Like I need two servers. I need this software to be installed. I need these are the network parameters should be applied. So just enter the parameters. It will make an entire environment ready. Then you need to just deploy your code. The next thing, so we have type of storages. So storages are again, it's a very important service. So there are different type of storage. We have Elastic File System, kind of ENFS. Then we have Amazon S3. So Amazon S3, these are kind of file storage where you can compare it with your Google Drive or your OneDrive, right? So then we will get into the networking components very in detail, because this is very, very important. Whenever you go for hosting any application in the cloud, the first thing you do is you design the network. Okay. So while you are designing the network, there are practices which we need to follow. So in terms of setting subnets, CNI, CNAs, NACLs, security groups, NAT gateway, the bastion host, the VPC endpoints, VPN, the direct connect, transit gateway, AWS global accelerator. So these are the design practices which we are going to discuss, and we are going to do hands-on as well. So then we will discuss about the AWS databases. So we will discuss about the AWS specific databases like DynamoDB and Aurora. Then we will discuss about DynamoDB Accelerate, right? So then in the domain three, we are going to discuss about more on the cloud security point of view. So we will discuss about identity and access management. So this is something will helps you to control access over your AWS console, right? So when you get your AWS subscription created, you get a UI with default use. But later, when you have a multiple team members, so you need to create a multiple accounts and you need to give a right level of access. So maybe for some set of users will work only for EC2. Some set of users will work only for networking related. So we need to have such a access control in the granular level. The person from the network perspective, so he can only work on the networking components, right? Such kind of access segregation. Then we will discuss about Amazon Cognito, then mobile security. So we will discuss about AWS organizations, how it works, the organization policy. We will discuss about the protection in terms of the security attacks. We will discuss about WF, Firewall Manager, and Shield. So there are the security requirements like logging, the logs getting whatever getting generated across the AWS services, right? So logging is very, very key. The reason if something happened, maybe it's related to performance issue or failures or security attacks, the logs are very, very crucial part, right? So we will go through the logs and we will try to understand what exactly happened in the earlier case. So we need to enable logging at each and every AWS component. So we are going to discuss about that. Then we will discuss about audit, the monitoring of the logs, monitoring of the metrics. We will discuss about the services within the AWS like AWS config and AWS cloud trial. So this will help us to analyze the logs. This will help us to analyze the various the metrics getting generated. So when I say metrics, the basic example like CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, right? So then finally we will discuss about the encryption. So nowadays, uh, the each and every data it is expected to be encrypted. Okay. The reason why we encrypt the data is because in case someone takes out your data from the cloud, so they should not be uh, allowed to use that data, right? So encryption is something you have your data, you will encrypt with some key and you will protect that key on safe place. Now if someone copy your data but if they don't have that key, so they cannot really make anything out of it, right? So that's something we are going to discuss. Any questions guys so far on the domain 2 and domain 3? Anything wanted to clarify? Okay, perfect, not a problem. The next thing we have a domain 4. In the domain 4 we will mainly discuss about the cost optimization. Okay, so when I say cost optimization, when you design the solution for your customers, the first thing comes is one is a cost, the second one is the security. So they always ask, how cheaper this solution is compared to on premises, right? So we need to use the best services whatever it's available in the AWS, and we need to make entire the better cost proposition for your design, right? In such cases you should uh, you know suggest the solutions like there are Amazon S3, there are Glacier, EFS, Storage Gateway, AWS Backup. So these are the services mainly helps us to reduce our cost. So we also have options like saving plans, the reserved instances. So these services or solutions will help optimize our resource requirement. For example, if you go for reserved instance, right? The reserved instance in the sense, let's take you have your website up and running, and your website is going to run for next 1 year continuously. And in such cases, so there are two way of purchasing the servers. The one we call it is a on demand, like you go just get the server, and if you don't need, you just delete it. Now there is another method, it's called as a reserved instance. Now the reserved instance is something, so you will actually commit to the AWS, look, I am going to use these servers, let's take 2 server or 3 server for next 1 year. Okay. And if you commit something, then AWS will provide at least 30 to 40% discount for that VM. For example, if you are going for on-demand EC2 instance or VMs, so they may charge you, let's take 100 USD per month. So, but when you go for reserved instance, they will charge you around 60 to 70 USD, right? So when you go for a large number of such servers, you will get a lot of discount, right? So again, you should know when to choose reserved instance, when to choose on demand. So you cannot just go for everything on demand or everything reserved, because there is a condition applicable. So if you're not using servers in between, you wanted to delete it. So then you cannot do that. You will be losing some money. So either you need to put some penalty you need to pay some penalty, or you will lose some money because you committed already but you are not using, right? So you should know such what situation we need to use reserved instance, on what condition you need to use on demand. Finally, there are cost optimization across network also. So we know what network service we need to use for which kind of solutions, right? So those are the best practices in terms of cost optimization, and it's in domain 4. So any questions, anything wanted to clarify? Okay, perfect. Now, in terms of the code's content, so we generally have a documents on each topic wise, right? So initially, we will start with the design point of view, how AWS Cloud, it is set up across globe, right? And then we will uh, try to understand, what is cloud. This might be something you might be already aware, but we will just refresh initially the advantages of cloud, the comparison of cloud across, right? So we will discuss about, the what is exactly the AWS is. So we will discuss about the individual benefits. So we are going to discuss what are the services are available in cloud AWS. So we will compare the traditional versus AWS components. Then we will also learn about the global infrastructure, how it looks like, right? So like how many regions AWS has, how many individual zones it has, right? So there is a concept of zone. We are going to discuss how this zone concept will help. So like each and every topic, we have a customized document along with the hands-on, along with questions, and it is again topic wise. And also we will discuss about the Linux part. Okay, so however it is not part of AWS certification, but it is very important to understand at least one of the operating system when you are getting into cloud, right? So in the cloud perspective, the widely used operating system is a Linux. So however, Windows also, it's have its own share, but the Linux is something widely used because it's widely preferred operating system for open source tools, even for the containers, right? So we will learn this as a addition, right? So I'm going to take you through Linux operating system commands, operating system, the software installation method, because moment you say cloud, so you do anything, maybe it's a DevOps, or you wanted to set up some application. So you need to know the Linux commands. You should know how to set up softwares, how to run the services. So this is something we cover extra along with the operating system. Sorry, along with the cloud, right? So then the individual topics we have, like AWS individual services like EC2, S3, and the whatever I have taken you through the course topic. The next thing, so in terms of the hands-on, so we are going to do hands-on on AWS Cloud right away, and I'm going to help you get your AWS account created, and we can do our entire training almost on the zero cost in the cloud. So we need to uh, practice some of the guidelines or best practices while we are using our AWS account. The AWS provides the pre-tier account. Okay, so it's for 12 months, and they give certain capping for every month. So within that capping, so we can run our hands-on almost on the zero cost, right? So there might be some cost because some services are not free, but as overall, it will not cross more than 10 to 15 USD. So maximum you might require to pay around 10 to 15 USD for complete this training, right? But we will try to reduce it as much as possible, but max 10 to 15 USD. So even you can get that credit back. So we can discuss with the AWS and we can say, look, we are going to use this account for training purpose. So they will give a credit back. So you can think almost zero cost and so on training on the AWS, right? So that's something we are going to discuss initial classes. The next thing in terms of the logistics. So we are going to provide you the recordings, and also we are going to provide you the course materials. And these course materials generally has a lot of custom documents, scripts, references, so that everything we are going to share it across Google Classroom. So the Google Classroom is something, a platform, it's provided by the Google. So it's kind of a, the open source platform for everyone. We generally use this and we provide access to you. All the course materials are available. Now, in case if you have some questions around after the training, you don't need to wait to the next class. You can raise it in the stream. The stream is something, it's an interactive option to connect with the trainers, right? So now the recordings are provided in the Visualpath LMS. So you will get access to the Visualpath LMS, and within the Visualpath LMS, so you can stream the recordings. Yeah. So any questions around? Anything wanted to clarify? Okay, perfect. So also along with these contents, we also have GitHub repositories where the scripts and tools, we upload and share it across. So that some comes along with that, and we will also give a reference to the books, and we will also give a reference to the certification questions. So we have certain questions, and we can also, plan out for getting some certification dumps from some links, right? So that's something we offline we will discuss and help the students get the certification cleared. Okay, so this is
Suresh.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, Suresh, my name is Jubair.
yeah, Jubair. Yeah.
Can you explain me about the certification path and the experience that we need to have?
See, for the certification, you don't need to have any AWS certification as such. Sorry, AWS experience as such. Uh, with this training, so you can crack your certification easily. So in terms of certification path, yeah. So I was taking through initially, right? So these are the domains in the high level we have, and individual domains, each topics I just taken you through. So we are going to discuss all the topics in this train.
Okay. I mean to say this is associate level, right? If I wants to go for the
Yeah.
professional level.
Okay. So for going with the probation level, so generally it is expected to have some experience, at least a minimum, 1.5 year of experience of
Okay.
AWS, because there are a lot of scenario-based questions in the probation.
Okay. So actually, I'm working as a database administrator.
Mhm.
I am looking at the various requirement that requires the cloud knowledge. But my question is, can I make this cloud as career oriented, like purely into the cloud domain?
Yeah, that's possible. So you have two options. One is you can get a cloud certification. That's something required. That's a basic nowadays. The next
Yeah.
thing, so within the cloud, either you can stick to all the cloud fundamental services, like generally you go as a cloud architect or cloud engineer, where you need to look around all the cloud services, right? But it may not be in detail sometimes. For example, if you take a DynamoDB or if you take databases, right? Or if you take data factory kind of services. So the cloud architect or cloud engineer, they will not get in detail on those services. The reason is since
Okay.
they need to learn the other services in detail, they cannot go everything in detail. For such cases, AWS, the data expert or AWS data factory expert or the AWS DynamoDB expert. So such things comes in. So those are also, it is a very niche skills nowadays. People wanted to have someone who know DynamoDB, Aurora DB, or individual database in very detail, right? So you can even continue with your existing skill, adding the cloud specific database experience.
Okay, you mean to say DynamoDB?
DynamoDB or even big data solutions,
Okay.
because that is something very easier to pick up as well, because since you're already expert in database, right? So you know database queries, how it works, how database performance can be tuned. So moment you put some database on the cloud, so it comes also with its own challenges. So you should know how to fine tune the database, how to improve the performance, those aspects as well. So in such areas, there are a lot of openings specific to the database area in the cloud.
Okay. Since you are already working in a cloud area, so when you mentioned about the migrations, so from on-premise to the cloud migration, what is the more requirement? Like, is it the migrations or deployment?
See, now there are two things comes in real time. The one is migration, as you mentioned. So a lot of customers,
Okay.
they already have a on-premises data center. So we need to
Mm.
migrate to the cloud. So when you are
Okay.
migrating, so it goes with a lot of discussion, lot of designing plan, right? So we need to find out, what is the approach. There are steps like you need to initially assess the on-premises application, whether we can lift and shift. For example, the same application, whether we can carry forward as it is to the cloud, or whether we need to redesign it, because sometimes what happen on premises application may be running in one set of softwares which are very premium in license cost. Let's take database is running on Oracle,
Mm.
or application, the middleware it's running on WebLogic or WebSphere. Now the cloud, generally it goes on, open standards, right? So they say, better look for MySQL, better look for Postgre. So those are much cheaper compared to Oracle. So you can think of whether to go Oracle as it is, or whether to go with Postgre or MySQL. Now, if you wanted to go with the Postgre or MySQL, so you need to think of, whether we need to fix anything, because databases or any application, we need to remediate something. We call it as a remediate. So remediation in the sense, so we need to do some changes on database level. You need to
Customize.
do some changes on application level to make it compatible for other software versions. So
Okay.
those things we need to do a assessment. Then the later, you need to go for cloud designing, and you will go for migration in the phase. Generally, you do a migration development environment first, test environment next. Then you will go for finally the production environment.
Yeah. Okay. This one is, you mentioned the cloud engineer, right? What are the main responsibilities of the cloud engineer?
So the cloud engineers are mainly completely hands-on skill set. So you should know in hands-on, how to set up everything, and you generally get into implementation right away. Like generally, the cloud architect also will be having hands-on, but they will get into the designing and building the solution. Right. The engineer is someone you need to execute each and everything, whatever it's a design. For example, let's take you wanted to migrate one .NET application to cloud, right? The cloud
Okay.
engineer, you should know how to launch a VM, how to install the software inside the VM, how to configure with the other networking services like load balancers, security tools like WAF, and you should know
Okay.
how to enable DNS. You should know how to purchase domain name, all those, hands-on things.
Okay. Design will be, in this case, design will be provided by the architect. Am I correct?
Generally, cloud architect. Yeah. So if there
Okay.
is a migration is small one, then the architect will do everything. So if it is a very big,
Okay.
a lot of applications are getting migrated, then yeah, so engineers will do the pure hands-on. The other guys
Mm.
will do this one, what we say, the designing part.
Okay. Which one is having a good demand, whether it is architect or engineer?
So it is
In,
purely based on your experience. If your experience is generally 7 plus, then it is better to go with the architect. So if it is less than that, So it is always, you can initially go with the engineer and later go into architect, but it's both are good.
Okay.
Hi, hi, Suresh. Myself,
Yep.
the thing is, I'm a middleware admin, working in like in Oracle almost 8+ years. Okay,
Yep.
on WebLogic. So thing is, only AWS is enough, or else we need to go with DevOps with AWS. What is the difference for
Okay.
this?
So now there are two things. One is the AWS. It's mainly the services design, infra design, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
once AWS is set up, uh, you need to deploy the application. Now, the application deployment, it happens through DevOps, or we call it as a CI/CD pipeline, right?
Yeah,
Now, these
yeah.
are, these are going hand to hand nowadays. So you need to have a cloud. Also, you need to have a DevOps understanding as well. Now,
Okay,
if
let's
you are
come
getting
center
into role of
our part.
Uh, yeah, so yeah, I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
Now, if you are getting into a cloud engineer or cloud architect, so your work will be more cloud work plus the setting of DevOps infrastructure. I mean, one time you need to set up all the DevOps tools, you need to integrate them, and then you need to explain the developer how to use the DevOps environment. Okay, then the daily basis, the developer is the one going to use your DevOps environment, like checking the code, initiating the build, deploying the code, right? All those things daily basis developer does. Now, in case while they are doing something issue, some build is not going happen or deployment is failing, again you need to get involved and you need to fix those things.
Okay. So for cloud formation, I mean, Terraform, we need to learn those things, or is uh, this is enough?
Yeah, so not maybe immediately, but Terraform or cloud formations. So these are, the templating your deployment. So there are two ways to deploy. When you get into the console, you just keep navigating across service and deploy it. The other thing is you template something. I mean, you example in case of Terraform, it's a JSON format, right? So you
Hmm.
define everything in the file, then deploy it.
Yeah.
So when if you are something very new to the AWS, it is better to start with management console initially. The later you can learn either Terraform or CloudFormation in detail.
I mean, we'll be going as an experienced person, like we'll be trying for job as an experienced person, being an 8 years. So I'll be going with
Hmm.
some 3 to 4 years of experience on AWS. So just
Okay,
my
so if your
to
experience,
understand.
yeah, I got it. If it is 8+ experience, then better to have such tool understanding as well. So in the training, I'll see if I can cover those things in high level, but at least I
Mhm.
can help you with some reference, links where to start with, how to start for
Yeah.
Terraform mainly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the whoever joined to the class today, we request to share your details with the visual path. There's a visual path, the executive in the chat. You can just chat him privately and share the details. Now, as far as this demo is concerned, I'm almost done with, so we generally take roughly 30 to 40 minutes more on introduction. So you can just think of how to take this further. So if you are planning to take this training,
Can
so
we
you
get
can
this demo
communicate to the
recording?
visual path. Yes, you can connect to the visual path. They will give the access.
Yep.
There is a visual path, the executive in the chat. You can just chat him privately
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can share the details. Okay. So if no questions, we are good to wind up. Thanks everyone. Take care, be safe. We will join back later.